Okay, I think we're recording. Thank you for joining me. I'm Julie Wise, and I am joined today by my good friend Sheila Corona. Sheila is someone who I met through Jason Gray's writings on Facebook, and Sheila had said in a video to reach out to her if there was interest, to talk about Jason's writings. And so I reached out to Sheila. We've had a few conversations, and so this is the first time I'm going to be hosting a conversation with Sheila on my YouTube channel, but I want to welcome you, Sheila. Thank you for being here. It's good to see you.
Well, it's good. Actually, thank you for having me. It's really cool this is only the second time I've been on somebody else's channel. So,
What? Really?
yeah.
Oh. Okay.
So thank you.
Absolutely. Yep. So I think what I want to talk about is what consciousness looks like in our lives. I think sometimes people can get wrapped up in things and forget how consciousness actually works in our lives and the impact that it has, how it is steering everything when we can really look at how things flow and what's happening. And so I know you've had a lot of conscious conversations on your channel. You're probably way ahead of me and way ahead of the curve on this, but anyway, I just wanted to see if you had any favorite stories that you wanted to share, or any personal profound experiences that may have changed your life. I know I've had some, but I'm just curious about what's been going on with Sheila.
Well, thanks for asking the question, actually, because I have thought about it quite a bit since you invited me to come in and chat about it. And I think at the moment, anyway, I've come to feel that each one of us, our inner being, our larger, more expanded being, some people would call that their soul. Some people would call it their higher self. Some people will call it God, source. For me, from my perspective, and that's one of the largest things that I have come to see and feel, is that each individual one of us, from my perspective, is a point of perspective of the all that is, the consciousness, the source, the Godhead, peering out from our separate and unique vantage points into the creation, and that we collectively create together. And so I personally feel it's each being's consciousness will speak to them in a way that that being can hear, will hear, if they are open to knowing that they have a larger part of themselves, a more expanded consciousness that is them. Because I've come to feel, and I may not be right about this, but so far, I feel like the ego part of me, that which calls itself Sheila, has been programmed and conditioned over the almost 65 years I've been on the planet. And I've had all those experiences that have been formed and shaped by that programming and conditioning, and the experiences had with that programming and conditioning. And then there's that higher, more expansive part of me that knows that I've been programmed and conditioned. And because there is free will on this planet, would never force itself on me, because I have been programmed and conditioned. And all I know is really all I know. And if I'm not open to knowing more, if I don't ask the question, what is all of this about? Who am I really? If I don't listen to that small, still voice, it won't push. It doesn't shove. It doesn't say, hey, listen to me. Because there's plenty of that going around on the planet from the outside. And because, approximately 10 years ago, I started out on a quest to get to the truth of who and what we are collectively and individually, I opened myself to hearing that small, still voice. And I began asking questions, and then I would wait to hear the answer. And sometimes that answer would come from unexpected places.
Mhm.
And I think because you even asked me about it and if I would tell the story again, and I don't mind at all because it's one of the coolest things that's ever happened to me.
Yeah.
Early on, when I was first waking up to the truth of who and what we are, or what I think of as who and what we are, in conversation with that larger part of myself, I sort of issued a bit of a challenge. And I said, okay, well, and I did it silently because, I come from the conspiracy theory side of things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I know they listen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
They listen in, right? And I'm very well aware of all of that kind of stuff. So I didn't ask my questions out loud. I I did it in my head, silently to myself. And I said, and so if what I am speaking to is real, then surely I'll be able, I can show me a sign. And I gave it a very specific sign to show. Now I had lived in the house that I was living in, which was the one right before this, over just, about a mile or two from here. My little fairy glen, I used to call it. And I said, I'd never seen a chipmunk ever in my life in person. I mean, I saw Chip and Dale, the closest thing I ever saw to a chipmunk, the cartoon Chip and Dale. And I said, well, if you are actually real and if I can do all of this that you say that I have the ability to do, I'd like for you to show a chipmunk. And so then I just sat out in my backyard and kind of was hanging out in nature, just enjoying myself. And then, and this is all within the span of about an hour and a half. I see this tiny little thing running across my backyard. And I thought to myself, no, that's a mouse. That's a mouse because I'd lived there for several years and never once saw any kind of inkling of a chipmunk. Lots of squirrels, lots of mice, even bunny rabbits, but no chipmunks. And I even said out loud, no, that wasn't a chipmunk. That's a mouse. And the next thing I know, this little thing popped up onto a wood stump in my backyard and looked right at me. And yeah, it was a damn chipmunk. And so that's some things like that have happened more than once. And that's what causes me to say, and I've said it many times on the channel, that I've come to the conclusion that the larger portion of me that's tapped into the Godhead uses every single thing at its disposal in creation to communicate with me. But if I'm not present, if I'm not paying attention, I'll miss it. Because again, it doesn't push, it doesn't shove, it doesn't stand up and scream, I'm over here. Yeah, so that was the most, and it was in reference to I had asked the question because I was told internally that I carry the energy of the Archangel Gabriel. And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, sure, whatever. And also the energy of Kali. Well, that's two completely different energies, just by the by.
Right, Kali in the Eastern tradition.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, you know the one with all the heads, the severed
Yeah,
heads, and
the fire and yeah, yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so that's why I said that's two completely different energies. And when your own inner guidance is telling you that, you're like, okay, sure. And so I said, well, if that's true, that would mean I'm a pretty powerful being. And so, and that's why I asked for a little proof, and asked for it to be in the physical, where you could help the little human who's not quite grokking what you're throwing down there. Yeah, and then that happened. And that's not the only time that's ever happened to me. I've had many since then. That was the very first one. I mean, questions being answered by other people. I actually had an autistic child whisper in my ear that I was born a herald after I'd been told this by somebody else, not at all affiliated with her. So that's why I say I really, and pursuant to my calling myself a puzzle piece collector, all of these, it's like, it's almost like, and because of the way the programming and conditioning is so embedded in here, and it falls away in little bits and pieces, it doesn't all drop at once, contrary to some pretty strong beliefs out there. For me, anyway, it certainly hasn't. It's been more like the veils are in here, not out there. And as they individually begin to fall away, some of these things, these puzzle pieces that for whatever the reason highlighted to me, and I wasn't sure why at the time, but I stored it. Oh, okay, that's what that was. Kind of feeling is what happens for me. So I really have come to feel like now, and just because I've been doing this a while does not mean on any stretch of any imagination that I have arrived and that it's done and I'm enlightened, because nothing could be further from the truth. These veils are deep, they are wide, they are thick. And sometimes when you think you've peeled one away, you find, oh, that was just the first layer of that veil. And God only knows how many more have got to come down from that portion of the situation.
Sometimes those are just echoes I'm finding.
Yes,
And
it
so
could be
we
that
think,
too.
I think we can get trapped in thinking that we are dealing with another layer of a veil when it's actually an echo. And so what you can do in that case is understand and be like, okay, this is an echo, and not chase it. Because that's the 100% truth of it is it's what you start chasing and thinking, oh, I need to process this further. And sometimes that's not always the best method. Sometimes the best method is to say, this is an echo testing me. And am I going to chase it or not?
Well, you see, now you've just answered. You've just proven my point. I have been having things, that I'm dealing with that have affected my health. And I don't know why. These are things I thought that I'd handled. Well, clearly not if it's affecting my health. Because from where I sit, the body keeps the score. And so perhaps because I have been asking some questions, and like I said, the answers come from all over the place. I mean, I've been in the grocery store and an answer come over the loudspeaker, and I knew when it came over the loudspeaker that it was the answer to my question. It could be a piece of music that's playing in the grocery store, could be something somebody's saying to somebody else 2 aisles down. But I
Yeah.
know when I hear it, oh, okay, thank you, got it.
Yeah.
And so you just said, in essence, some of the same information that just came through my sister a little earlier this morning. And so, but see, for me, and I've been really hard on myself. I've come to see that one of the reasons um I've always been really hard on myself, harder on myself than anybody else. And just by the way, if you are hard on yourself, then and somebody says you're hard on people, then understand that because you're being hard on yourself too. Because we cannot give another being what we don't lavish upon ourselves.
Yep. I walked that road for many, many years of
Right.
being hypercritical and hard on people. And then realized, yep, it was the perfectionism mask all along.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, and I've also come to recognize that a lot of that is trauma response. And, I thought I had dealt with some of that trauma. Well, clearly I dealt with some of it, but now whether it's an echo or it just hasn't fully cleared out,
Yeah.
and so, which to me, an echo is something that hasn't been fully fleshed out. And so but I also feel with all of me that once I see what I am required to see and process what I am required to process, then and only then will it completely leave.
Yeah.
So there is something that I'm still holding on to, and I'm not really clear exactly what all it is yet. And I also know, at least this is what I've been being, every time I ask this question, I get that I don't know what I don't know. And that's true. And that's true actually for all of us. We don't know what we don't know because we don't know it.
It seems obvious, yeah.
Right. It would seem obvious, but
But yeah, we think we know anyway. Yeah.
Yes, but not exactly, because here we are. Um and so, but I also, because I've also been shown very clearly that And it applies to me as well as it applies to any and all of the rest of us. Only once the psyche is ready will whatever that needs to be, you know what I mean? I could not figure out why other people couldn't see what I could clearly see was happening. Why can you not see what's happening?
In the world, you mean? Or
Anything, it doesn't matter what it is. Pick a topic,
Mhm.
doesn't matter.
Mhm.
I was seeing it, but it wasn't until I realized that each of us hold a very unique perspective
Mhm.
and are at varying levels of consciousness. And if you cannot even entertain that you are a powerful being in your own right, that you are the Godhead, then how can you even entertain anything that has to do with expanded consciousness? You cannot. It's an impossibility. And so I finally understood that even though God love her, my mother, for all of her unconsciousness, she did tell me when I was somewhere in my 30s that not everybody thinks like you, Sheila. And that was actually what I mean by getting answers through other people.
Mhm.
I understand that on a level I've never understood it before. To even think for one moment that anybody else on the planet thinks the way I think is wrong because nobody thinks like I think. Nobody thinks like you think
Mhm.
because each one of us are a complete compilation of every experience we've ever had on the planet. And you're the only one that's had those same experiences in the same order, in the same kind of way, in those energetics. Oh, we might can compare them and say, oh yeah, I had that experience, but the consciousness is completely different. It can be similar, and we can think that we are sharing a moment there, and we are to a degree, but it is also completely different. And now I get it. That is completely by design, and it's the way it was meant to be. And it's the only way that, in my view now, my own consciousness keeps telling me that we are all one and singular, all at the same time. That's why it's a multidimensional thing that we got going on here. And that's the only way that could be. If all the experiences you've had while you're in that vessel and all the experiences I've had while I'm in this vessel are the only thing that separates us, both of us take those experiences back to the Godhead
Mhm.
and inform the Godhead, which then is evolving, which in turn evolves the smaller ego if they're open to knowing that they are part of the Godhead. I think it still evolves that ego, but it just doesn't know it. It attributes it to something else. I know I did for a very long time. I attributed it to something else. So, but I really do understand that on a different level than I ever did before. Um, yeah, and it was very important for me to get that message because that is one of the things I was so hard on folks about, thinking that, well, who the hell am I? If I can get this, anybody can, because ain't nothing special about me. Right? I just was thinking, but there is something special about me. There's something special about each and every one of us. Completely unique beings. And that is the way it was designed to be, on purpose. And I think it has to do with evolution myself. That's the other message I keep getting, is that it has to do with the evolution of consciousness as a whole. Because I couldn't unsee the progression of different things that came to me to record. You know, if I had found Jason a couple of years ago, I would never have understood.
Me either.
Psh,
I would have been so confused.
same. Absolutely the same.
Yep. Mhm.
I'm sure it would have probably pinged me, because I've had things ping me and not know why. And when that happens, I file it away somewhere in here. And now I understand what that is. It's waiting for the part of my consciousness that's ready to absorb that to come online, or to become activated or something. Because very few of the titles that Jason has put out am I pinged not to record. But the level of oh yeah, okay, yeah. I could not for the longest time figure out why I was told, yes, I'm going to record that, but not today. And it really was his work that helped me see that had to do with the level of where my consciousness was in that moment, and how important it was for me personally to follow my inner guidance, because I had promised my inner guidance when I first started this little quest here to follow all my nudges, even if I didn't understand why I was being asked to do something, to just follow it. And I now understand why, because it has to do with where my consciousness is in that given moment. And if it's not ready, if I can't take it in the manner in which the larger part of me wants me to get it, then I have to wait until another time. And when I'm ready to record things and I go through his work, certain ones ping. But he's so prolific that I've been pinged on some things, but then something else will ping me harder.
Yeah.
And,
Same.
like,
Mhm.
thank you so much for sending me the RZN series in order,
Oh, you're welcome.
because my guidance was to record those in order. And it had been so long since he had recorded that he had written them and put them out. I had no idea
Mhm.
how to find them. So just the very fact that you had those, that saved me, because I could just get up in the morning and record until they were done.
That one was tricky because they weren't numbered. A lot of
I
other
know.
series are numbered. And
Right.
so I had to go back to his X page, which was where he started posting them originally, and go back and go to the days and go day by day and pull them in order. And that was how I did it.
And I am so grateful to you for that. And now also this next series that you sent me, that I was pinged. Again, that's another one
Mhm.
that I was paying to get the order for. And so thank you so much for that. And I had
For the nodes,
planned,
yeah. Mhm.
yes, because I knew I was going to do the meta keys. And but then when I saw the RZN series, I was pinged harder. And so I stopped doing the meta keys and went on to the RZN. Then the node, the nodes that you've sent me, I got a hit that those were to be next. But then in the meantime, he posted some other things that oh, bigger name on the other line. This now. So I just never know, what's to be next where he's concerned.
That's where I am right now. I don't know what I want to read next because he's not in the middle of a series. It doesn't feel like, and if, when he's in a series, it's easy, then I don't have to put a whole lot of thought into it, but. And then I think, okay, well, maybe I'll go back into some saves or something, but then he'll put out something new and that'll ping me and it's like. I don't know who could keep up and do his recordings every single day. I don't know who could.
Yeah, well, there's just no way I could do that.
Yeah.
Um, and see this, what I find highly interesting is, I everything is connected. And had my housemate Lisa not been put in the hospital, I'm not sure I would have found Jason. I mean, I'm sure if I was meant to find him, I would have.
Mhm.
But everything is connected. I don't spend a lot of time on my phone or perusing the internet. It's not what I normally do.
It's good.
But you're in the hospital, she's sleeping. I'm not looking at the mainstream TV. I was scrolling the phone.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I was a member of the Ancient Order of the Hermetics, and that is where I first saw Jason. And I read this piece and I was like, oh my God, I got to record this. This is ping, 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 ping. Right. And then they just started coming after that for me. And I reached out. I was in the hospital with her when I reached out to him. And so that was a huge synchronicity, actually, because right before she was put in the last time, she was nudged to read another writer on X. His name is B at Quantum Tumblr. And I had read one of his articles about that Lisa had read. She sent it to me. And right at the same time, those two, B and Jason, were writing about what I thought and felt and see as the same thing, from their own perspectives. And see, remember, I feel like our perspective and our perceptions are shaped by all those experiences, like I said, and the languaging that we use to describe those perceptions and those perspectives is a little bit different and unique for each individual. But for some reason, I can see the big picture. Now, part of that may have to do with my being a projector, but I've done that a lot. I've been able to say, well, wait a minute, he's saying the same thing as he is, and he's saying the same thing she is. They're all telling the same story. They're just using different language.
Mhm. It's pattern
And
recognition. Mhm.
right, and they're doing it from their own perspective, right?
Mhm.
And I think that happens a lot. And then folks get, triggered because they feel like their work is being stolen and plagiarized, when in fact, no, it's just, we're all consciousness and everybody plays a role in this. And
I have a thought. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, you go ahead. I want to hear what you got to say.
I have a thought on that because, I think that it's like, just like you talked in one of your videos this week about Prince saying, if I don't get up and write that song, Michael Jackson will. And I think that ultimately that is how it works. It is information in the field. And there are records of it, inventions being done where a person has an idea, but they don't act on it, but somebody else invents the exact same thing. How else do you explain that? You
No,
know,
exactly correct. I had an idea for an invention when my child was, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 years old. I have one child, he's male. And so I was the only female in the house with two males. And there's every female on the planet can recognize what I'm about to say. Put the toilet seat down, right? I know you
yeah,
got a son, so you know what I'm talking about.
he's trained though. He's perfect.
Well, I thought I
Maybe
had
on
it
the
going
toilet
off.
seat. That's it.
You know, a lot of yelling, but yeah, finally. But see, when he was younger, I came up with an invention in my head. And some years later, I never acted on it.
Was it the
Some
soft
years
closed
later,
toilet seat?
yes, yes.
Wow.
And then I saw that it had been invented. And so I know that what you just said is absolutely true. That's why I said, whether that's a function of collective consciousness or the fact, like I say, we are absolutely all one consciousness and individuated portions of consciousness all at the same time.
Mhm.
And right before we met here, my sister was showing Lisa and I a video with Carrie Cassidy and Michael Jaco that's just been released. And in it, he's talking about how he had an experience where he was standing by the river near the lake at Lake Tahoe. And the next thing he knows, he was taken aboard a ship and he was speaking to an Anunnaki person, but they were eye level. And he realized later that his consciousness was put into his Anunnaki form
Wow.
aboard the ship. Well, I know what he's talking about because, again, I've said this before. At some point, when we all realize and truly believe in the truth of who we are going to find that we are all one and singular in nature, but we have, Jason refers to it as fragmented, and we're fragmented, but we have access to other fragments of ourselves because everywhere, everything, all at once is a very real thing. And what he was describing there is what I was shown by my own consciousness as happening because I've done that in dream time, where this consciousness that calls itself Sheila ended up in a different vessel. I've experienced myself as male in the dream space. I've experienced myself as a manted being in dream space. Now, that was in a BQH session, actually. I really do feel with all of me that these are other instances of me, and the main portion of my consciousness went to that fragment of me. And that's how I was able to experience that. Now, I don't have waking control over that yet,
Mhm.
but I will
Mhm.
someday. I'm planning on it at least.
Yeah.
That's to me, that's the ultimate. To know that you exist in other places, times, realms, and to be able to go there at will, consciously, at will.
Mhm.
I do feel like that's possible, and I feel like eventually each one of us will be experiencing that if that's something we desire to experience.
Yeah. I think that's what Jason refers to as time travel. It's
Yes.
when you get to that point where you realize that you are the source, you are the one who is projecting everything. And so you can intend your projection of what you want to go look at and experience. Yeah.
Yes, yes, and I think that's when he wrote the RZN series and he was talking about the return carriers. I recognize myself in that.
Mhm.
I recognize myself in the return carriers. And I just know that what he wrote there is so. I know with all of my being that it's so.
Yeah.
And like I said, I the wording may be different for different beings as they feel to write it, but it is so. It doesn't make it any less true. Yeah. And so I really do feel like, and again, I know I haven't give enough time and attention to sitting with the larger portion of myself and in contemplation.
Do
We
you
are
meditate?
I don't,
Mm.
not like I would like to. Um, that is something that I had started to develop and then I just stopped. And I really don't have a good answer as to why. Well, partially too, when we were having so much trouble in that other house, I became very distracted, but we all did. Um, and then the physical illnesses started surfacing, and
Mm.
those kinds of distractions take the attention completely off of this sort of thing. And how much of that is by design? One must wonder,
Yeah.
you know? And I don't know, but there's been a few interesting things that have happened with my channel of late that tell
Okay.
me that because I've always suspected that I've been under surveillance, if you will, right? Jason's writing why some humans become visible. This morning, as I was looking at it to share with my sister, was something I noticed yesterday. There are 459 views on that video. But if you look at all the others, what I'm allowed to see, 10, 15,
Mm-hmm.
25. Now, how does that work and why?
Mm-hmm.
Did they just forget to lower those numbers? Because I've always suspected that part of what they do there is designed to demean and discourage me. Because that's been what was behind taking my channel down twice before as well. So, I mean, my very first live conversation with Jason, I looked at it the next morning after we had our live on that Saturday. I think it was Saturday night. I looked at it the next morning and I saw 929 views. And I was like, wow. The next day, it was down to 500 views. Now, how does that work?
Mhm.
You want to explain to me how you take your view back?
Mhm.
I don't know how
Yeah,
that works even.
it's all garbage.
Yeah, no, it really is. That's when I
Mhm.
realized that, there's such a thing as targeting folks to try to get them to stop doing what they're doing.
It's your signal.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, nanny, boo boo, I ain't falling for it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I have one video that, like, I had some where I was getting higher view counts for a little while. And then I had a video on in the RZN series of the First Harmonic Citizens, I believe, that had like 1,000 views. And I was like, okay, what was specific about this one? And then all of a sudden, boom, they start dropping off to, like you said, 8 views, 10 views. It's like, I haven't changed anything. I am producing them exactly the same way I always have.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, and I also had a commenter just this past week that said that they wanted me to know that they felt like I was being messed with because um, she said that there was a really long ad that played that didn't even offer a skip function, that she had to sit through in order to get to my video. And then when she did, it warned her that let me pull that up so I can read it verbatim, because it was very interesting what she shared there. Um, bear with me.
Mhm.
Okay, it must have been on New Light Streaming Love instead of Sassy Seer Sheila, because I upload I upload all of those too.
Yeah, and I'll include the links to your channel, Sassy Seer Sheila, and New Light Streaming Love in the description with this
Okay,
video
thank
too.
you. Thank you so
Mhm.
much.
Yeah, you've done, I think over 400 readings of Jason's writings. I think you have. Because you
Oh,
were well
wow.
over 300 anyway, and then you did the RZN series, you did the keys and meta keys, you've done some of the other ones lately too, of his personal stories, which are so good. And
Well,
so I think you're well over 400. And he always says, yeah, Sheila's recorded about 200, and I'm like, he doesn't know. He needs to go look and do the math. It's a lot more than that, because you have what, 4 playlists of his writings that you've recorded. And
yes.
so, yeah, you've done an unbelievable amount of those. So,
Well, like I said, I've always done this. Um, I know that I'm doing it mostly for me. I feel like it can benefit everyone, and that is why I do it and put it out there. Okay, of course it's not coming up. Right when I want to share it. Um, it was very interesting. Oh, here it is. YouTube is trying to stop people watching this by putting on a long ad, which will not stop, and a threat to my account that everything I watch will be recorded. I shared it, and they were sabotaged as well.
That's unbelievable.
So now I got to be honest with you, that's the first I've heard that being done. So clearly they've give up trying to intimidate me because, well, it ain't working. And so now they're going after the individual viewer to try to intimidate them. But I got some news. Everybody who is supposed to see it will see it, and I am not worried about that either.
Yeah.
I I've wondered if Conscious Conversation Central won't come back someday. I know that I have heard that a couple of folks who lost their YouTube channels, they came back. Jordan Sather's original channel came back, which I interviewed Jordan Sather on Conscious Conversation Central before he got big. And so I keep going to check and see if they will just reinstate it, but maybe they won't. And part of that, I think, is because at the time they took Conscious Conversation Central down, I had 1,500 conversations on the channel. And there had been, it was like, I don't know, 5 years or 4 years, 4 or 5 years by that time. And 1,500 conversations, more than that. Now, I still have all those conversations. And maybe someday they'll be up there. They'll be put back up there. Because at that point, for me, my inner guidance was that part of what the whole reason I was doing it and the way I was doing it was because when folks first start waking up, it doesn't matter how they're waking up because that will be different for everybody too. I woke up to the corruption on the planet first. And then I woke up to the medical industrial complex. And then I woke up to big pharma and big agriculture. So it was stages, right? And then it was on to the new cage, right? So that's why I say it's like veils within that begin dropping. But if one truly wants to know, then really all I was doing, the reason I was give to share my experiences was to let folks who do have those questions know that this is what it might look like for you, at least a little similar, and not to give up.
Yeah.
Because it can be a little daunting and it can be painful and downright hard to do because part of that for me has been facing and embracing the woundedness within, because that is the hardest part of all of this, for me anyway. This second round of issues with my health has to do with, see, I already want to cry because I know it's the truth. Understanding that my woundedness started as a young child. And I think this is true for many of us on the planet. And I just realized this morning that my hypervigilance is because, and most people who classify themselves as empaths are actually terribly wounded children.
Yep.
Who had to learn at a very early age how to read the room.
Yep.
So
You're
you could get the
100%
hell
correct.
out of the way.
Yep.
And so all my life in different and varying ways, I've been encouraged, ordered, shamed into shutting myself down. And so that's a really hard one to see and finally get over. And so that's what I'm in the process now of trying to do, and why there are such huge gaps right now of me recording, because it's taking a lot out of me to face and embrace. Because what I do absolutely know is that on the other side of that facing and embracing, the integration and then the releasing of that trauma, is such peace and beauty. And so for me, that's priority. And I used to have an outlet for doing that. That's what we did a lot of in the early days of Conscious Conversation Central, was me learning how to see myself, embrace myself. And I was just asked to do it out loud. And I've said before on the channel, and I don't know which channel or when, that basically this was my therapy. This is Sheila having a therapy session with whatever age Sheila that needs it at that time. I'm a very tonal being, meaning my voice activates me first and foremost. Now, I have been told that it does something for others as well, which is why they call me a herald, which also goes to why I think the inner guidance has been to do it out loud, which also is not easy. But it's also really hard to do when you're trying to do it and you don't have anyone to chat with. But as a projector, you also have to wait for the invitation, which is also hard.
Well, then you chat with me about it. That's the invitation.
Well, you did. You invited me. And so yeah, that's why I'm like, yes, ma'am, I'm there.
Good.
And so if you ever get hits or anything, just feel free to chime in and share with me, because that is how it worked before for me. I
Well,
was able to do a lot of work, inner shadow work, out loud on the channel And I had, I was able to see things that I couldn't see for the longest time.
Mhm.
I've said this before. I will sit in this room by myself and think and contemplate and ruminate, and I can't get to the bottom of it
Because
because
it's rumination. Because it's rumination and it's not actually the same thing as looking at it um, and getting through it. I don't even know if processing is the right word. It's in some ways, it's just accepting it, really.
yes,
And
probably
so
so.
I'm hearing two things. And so first I want to say, you know what's on the other side of the healing.
Yes, I
You know
do.
that that great peace is coming. You also have to know you deserve that.
Yes, I
Until
do. I
you,
know. And I know I do.
yeah, until you get to that moment, because I've had it, and I had it twice actually, because it didn't take the first time. I backtracked on it, but until you have that moment where you actually just become absolutely raw, honest, and ugly with yourself about it, and understand that you are the only one who can repair that for yourself, return to yourself, and love yourself through it, because you're the only one who has ever been there. Until you have that moment, it's going to feel like, yeah, there's just more processing I need to do. But you have to understand, you have to know you deserve it.
Well,
And
clearly
sometimes,
I just was gonna say clearly I really truly believe that I shut all of my abilities down at 5. So first of all, we're dealing with a 5-year-old here, not a
mm,
12-year-old like I thought, a
mm,
5-year-old.
yeah,
Because that's who I projected for a psychic once before, and she didn't know who she was seeing, and I knew it was me, but then I turned around and discounted that because she's the medium, not me, right? But I now know I was right. I was showing her me when I shut myself down.
mhm,
And that 5-year-old does not trust me
mm,
under any circumstances. And I know why. Because I've not been there for her under any kind of circumstances. I've put her in danger. I have, I went from bad to worse, from frying pan to fire in my life. She's never been safe. She's never felt safe. Not anywhere, not with anyone, and certainly not with me.
mm,
And I know that. I'm not sure how. I'm not sure how to fix it. I'm not, and I know too, to pile it on even worse. And I turned around and did the same thing to my child. And when I realized that, now it's come to be like the unforgivable is the way it feels. Because when I first started this process, and I was going through my pictures to I was trying to scan them digitally so I could just give them all to my child so he had the physical pictures. Pardon me.
mhm,
And I happened to notice that the same thing happened to him that happened to me. He was a normal weight, and then all of a sudden he started ballooning up. And that's what happened to me. That's exactly what happened to me. And it's really just now in the last little bit that I've realized that that is exactly what happened. And so, how do you fix that? How do I get, how do I get past that? How do I fix it? And that's where I'm at. That's what I'm looking at now, you know. And so I think if I sit with it a bit, and I'll just open it up to anybody out there. If anybody knows, that sees this, you know, feel free, comment in the comments, reach out to me personally, consciousconversationscentral@gmail.com. I'm open to hearing everything because I got nothing at this point.
In my case, my higher self took over and showed me what I needed to do.
How did that work for you? How did you?
It was something that, I mean, it was during that time that I've talked with you about what I, was like when I fragmented last December, when I was in sort of a really deep, dark night of the soul. And I was just in my emotions all the time for the first time in my life because I had shut down. I had masked heavily. I had disassociated from everything in my life. I mean, I can't even count how many relationships I was never actually in. It was that much disassociation. And so I was spending a lot of time alone, not sleeping well, not eating, and just crying all the time, just finally letting it out. And I was just sitting on my couch on a Saturday morning and something reached out to me, and it was just like this feeling of, you can let this go. You don't have to keep holding this. And then like all of those versions of myself came forward and were like visibly like, this is when this happened and this is when that happened. And it was kind of like a melding together of recovering all those fractures and all of those versions of myself that never fully got to be expressed and never got to live, and the ones that weren't real that I was, kind of faking my life through, all came together and kind of merged is the only way I can describe it. And I absolutely broke down emotionally, of course, because that is a devastatingly emotional experience when something
Right.
like that happens. Yeah, but that is how it happened for me. And it was because though I was spending so much time asking how to get past certain things, like certain behaviors, that control mechanisms that I had, manipulative behavior that I was portraying, all of it. And that was the answer I got. So I'm confident that if you keep asking and you want to heal it, that
I
you will.
do. I do. And I am asking. And right now, all I get is I don't know what I don't know. And so, and the bit about labeling different things as a mistake or whatever, how I label things. So I guess it's either I haven't fully, and maybe too, what you're describing there is something that I haven't allowed myself to get lost in the emotions of it. And that might be, again, that because that was one of the things that I was told over and over and over again, was that I was too emotional. And my emotions make others uncomfortable. And so I do all I can to shut it down. It's all I can do to not scream and cry right this minute, you see.
Mhm.
And
I love
so,
your vulnerability. That's my favorite thing about your videos.
oh,
I absolutely adore it. So
well,
yeah.
thank you for that, because it's hard to keep it off the camera sometimes. I try not to be so uh and believe me, it's been hard, but at any rate, I see that it's 2 minutes to 4 and you have a hard
No.
stop at 4. And now apparently they're gonna mow the yard right out my window here.
Oh,
I just want to thank you so much for asking me.
absolutely.
It's been my pleasure, and you
Oh,
actually,
it's been mine. And
well,
hopefully we can do this again, Sheila, because I think we need to continue this conversation, because the second message that I got while you were speaking was that when we begin to heal these things within ourselves, because we are all connected, we heal them in in everyone, and in the, I can't think of the word right now. The word is leaving me.
collective,
In the grid, in the network,
right?
that healing goes everywhere. All
No,
timelines,
you're
all
right.
dimensions, all versions, all people. It goes everywhere. And so that's the thing about, if you do stick with it, and you do get through it, and even as much as you have already, I'm sure, has making an impact. But even if you don't know it, even if you don't say it out loud to anybody, you're still making those changes, and they are felt. So
Right.
I
And
want you to know
I
that.
do know that's true. I do know that that is true. All we have to do is heal ourselves, and it does makes it that much easier for, because it goes into the field and then it's available to everyone. It makes it that much easier on the next guy, actually.
Mhm.
So, well, I'm gonna take you up on that.
Okay, good.
You let me know when you're ready, and I will make myself available.
Okay, okay, all right. Thank you so much. I have been it's just an honor to know you. I adore
Oh,
you, and I love speaking with you. And so, yes, I will reach out to you again
that
soon.
touches me, and you don't know how much that touches me. So
Oh,
thank you so much for that.
yeah.
Uh,
All right. I'll see you next time.